Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Mom and I are both really grateful that you can join us today. We're excited today. We have Laura Wooster on with us. She is an intuitive medium, teacher, and host of The Intuitive Life on Mind, Body, Spirit FM. She's a spiritualist minister ordained by the Journey Within Spiritualist Church in Pumpkin Lake, New Jersey, and Laura is a certified medium with the Forever Family Foundation. So, sorry, I should have put my glasses on. So, welcome, Laura. We're happy to have you on our podcast today.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah. So, can you tell us how you kind of got started in all of this?
Long story, but I will sort of give you a short version. Um, so I've always been intuitive, even as a child. I used to hear things, see things, and over time I kind of because I started to realize other people didn't see or hear how I saw and heard the world. So I kind of pushed that to the side. But when I became an adult, it was through the process of trying to address some medical things. Like I had high blood pressure. I was very young. I was a young mom of two young children. I was trying to address blood pressure and anxiety and depression. And my doctor's like, well, we could put you on all these meds. And I said, no, I want to try something separate from that. So I decided to try meditation. So I started a practice of meditating 20 minutes every single day. And about after 6 months, I started hearing spirit talk. So then it started another process of deciding, do I need help, like extra help? Because I'm hearing and seeing things and I couldn't hear and see things since I was a child. Um, but also to just try to understand, what this was. And so it took me about a week and a half to really determine that, okay, there's something here. I came across a book synchronistically during that week and a half after this sudden experience happened from John Edward, and his description of how he did his work and how he, connects to spirit. I said, this all seems very familiar to me. I think I'm onto something with this. So then that's how I started my whole journey. That was 20 something years ago. So it's been a little while.
Yeah, definitely. So, do you hear spirit or do you see spirit or both or
Both. And more often than not, it like 99.9% of the time it's more subjective. Whether anybody who doesn't understand what subjective, objective, clairaudience and clairvoyance is, that's more like what I hear in my own mind's voice or my mind's eye. Some occasionally I will see things in around or see people around, very, very rarely. And occasionally I do hear them in my physical ears, but mostly it's the subjective clairaudience and clairvoyance.
yeah, that makes sense. I think a lot of people are that, and I do think people do see things. Like sometimes I see things and I'm like, did I see that? Did I imagine that? Was that a piece of dust that I just caught out of the corner of my eye in a weird way?
Yeah,
Sometimes sometimes you just have that intuitive hit, I think, that
yeah,
oh,
right.
somebody or something, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I
so
think sometimes you have to be objective too. You know, it's just challenging your own self too, which is a good thing always.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's nice to be able to see objectively because then you're like, oh, I actually am definitely seeing something. Because a lot of times when I'm teaching my classes, whether it be mediumship or psychic development, um, to actually see something with our physical eyes for people who are having that new experience of connecting in that way, it's something it to them it feels more tangible or appears more tangible to them. Whereas if they're seeing subjectively, it's hard to just differentiate between their own thoughts and their own memories versus actually receiving that information. So yeah, it would be easier just to objectively hear and see everything because it's
That
separate
though.
from your own experience. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Although then, like you said, sometimes you think, oh, did I
Hmm.
really? Or does somebody need to come get me and give me some help here, right? Yeah.
Give me that
So
raw kick.
yeah. And I know a long time ago, like both mom and I have been very intuitive and since, well, for me for a long time and for you for a long time as well. And I know at one point we took a psychic development class. So can you just, and it was really encompassed a lot of different things like, trying psychometry and trying different things because I think everybody has their niche, so to speak, of what they like. How do you find that in your classes that you do?
Yeah, I think it's for the main objective when I do, especially introductory classes, is just to have people realize what is a potential for them, and to let go of what they expect that experience to be. A lot of people expect a psychic experience to be a certain way or connecting to spirit to be a certain way. But just in the introductory classes, I just want people to experience what it's like to actually perceive things that they probably, at hope at the end of the class that they realize that they've been experiencing these things all along and they just didn't see them for what they were. So
Yeah.
that's always my hope anyways, and it seems to be the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I love where you said meditation because I love meditation too. I think it does really quiet your mind and help you tap in. I mean, it doesn't work for everybody, but
Mhm.
what are some tips that you would give somebody if they were listening to us and they wanted to start tapping into some of their psychic development or intuition, since we all have it?
Yeah, I'll definitely take a class with somebody to learn some basics about how we perceive energy, through beyond our physical senses. Also, like I said, meditation is really wonderful because it quiets the mind. Because for a long time, I just thought I had ADD, ADHD. I really did, and I was like, so why do I have all this stuff going on in my head when I realized a lot of the things that I was experiencing is I'm receiving information. It's not a whole lot of stuff in my head. So by meditating, you can calm your mind down and sort of differentiate and develop that discernment of what is mine and what isn't mine. And at that point, once you realize what isn't yours, is is to recognize, okay, am I feeling things? Am I seeing things? Am I hearing things? And also to recognize when this is coming up in everyday life. So just being aware of that, through either a class or even just reading a good book that on the subject matter, just to be aware of how you can receive that and just pay attention to how things to be fully present for your life energetically is so important. And I do think a lot of times people miss that because life is so busy and we're so distracted. So basically meditation, getting quiet and more present, and paying attention to how you feel things or how you see things in your mind's eye and take notes and eventually start to decipher, okay, this is something else. And it's so subtle. And a lot of people don't recognize it's so subtle. They think they're going to get knocked over the head with a psychic impression, and it's not always the case. Sometimes it happens, but
Yeah.
not always the case. So, yeah. So I hope that people get that you know, out of tonight, anyways.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I find that because we're so busy, I particularly need almost that like hammer over my head with the neon sign, like, hello, pay attention to me, right? So,
Yeah.
and I
Mhm.
do meditation, so it's like, but sometimes you just, I think as a society, a lot of times we just fill up our space where it's quiet with noise of whatever type.
Yeah, a lot of people keep the radio on, the TV on, all these things, and I can't do that. I have to turn all those things off so I can be with my own thoughts. But it's true, a lot of times people do fill that space in, and it's sad though because I think people miss out on so much. People don't want to be in there with their own thoughts sometimes, and I understand why that might be, but also there's so many gifts in that, being fully present with our own thoughts and feelings and impressions, because we can utilize our own psychic gifts in order to live a more full and joyful life.
Yes.
Mhm.
Did you have a question, Mom? You look like you were going to say something.
No, I'm just thinking about back in the day when we didn't have so much media and things like that. You know, you didn't go on the internet, you didn't go on your phone and that kind of thing. So you really had to sit with and be still you know, and you really learn how to do things on your own because you didn't have all the things you have today. So, it's really interesting because that was when I started finding out that I too had a gift and but it was very quiet. But today, unless you live in a rural place and that it's tried, unless you're in your own home, it's difficult to find the silence outside unless you go by a creek or something like that, right? If you live in a metropolitan or a fairly busy place. So,
Mhm.
it's nice to if you can turn it off and like you said, but trying to find that space sometimes it is difficult, you
Mhm.
know. But yeah, I remember back in the day, oh boy, everything was quiet.
I know it's like there are times when I forget my phone and I have to go out and run errands. I'm like, it's kind of a relief, not having my phone with me and feeling what it used to feel like decades ago, and being able to just be disconnected and with your own thoughts and not being
Yeah.
interrupted.
It
Yeah.
is. I laughed one time we went camping and I was just sitting outside, just sitting in the chair, just kind of staring off into the woods, and my granddaughter's like, "Aren't you bored?" Oh, good. But right, it's not the norm for today, right? It's not like I would be so bored, people say, right? If I was just
Mhm.
meditating or sitting in nature or what have you, but I quite
Yeah.
enjoy it myself.
It's often one of the things that when people ask, like, how can I nurture my children's own intuitive abilities? I'm like, let them get bored. Absolutely, let them get bored. That's where the creativity arises, and they start paying attention to the small details in life. They start paying attention to those little things outdoors. I mean, I remember, when I was born in 1969, so I remember what that was like. But playing with the caterpillars in the outside, in the yard, and all those things that kids, always did. And I think a lot of kids don't do that anymore. To be really connected
Right.
to nature and their own, the silence sometimes of just being fully present for what's right in front of them.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I agree with that because I just like we just that's a society and but so with your mediumship, did that kind of come in at the same time as you finding out that you had this intuition? Did you start hearing, or how does spirit come to you or people come to you that have passed over?
Yeah, well, that's kind of what opened the door for me as an adult. I experienced it as a child, but then after I became a mom, it gradually started to. Every once in a while, I have an experience. I'm like, what is that? What's happening here? And then it was when I started the meditation and then someone came in from the other side. It's someone who had passed, who I hadn't met, but they're part of my family. But other people had met this person, and so I had to decide like what's going on here. But so spirit connecting with spirit was what opened the door for me. But then at that point, once I figured out what was happening, I stepped back and I started from square one. I started with continuing with doing meditation, but with a group, sitting in a group experience, meditating every week, and also going to a psychic development class and taking energy healing classes and all these things that sort of built a knowledge base of what was happening. So then I didn't have any kind of objective when I started this to go in any particular direction, to do any particular type of work. It just gradually unfolded in front of me. I was just more out of curiosity, trying to understand what my experiences had been. So here I am today. As I do intuitive readings. I also do mediumistic readings, and I'm actually incredibly shy person. I never would have thought I'd be doing anything like this. Never mind getting on stage or platform doing mediumship work. Um, that took a long time to get to that point. But when there's a purpose behind it, I have no problem doing that as well. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
I can relate to that because if 16-year-old me, I told her that, oh, you're going to go and do a podcast with your mom and do these things. And when mom has her shows, go to that and be walking around the audience, I'd have been like, right. But I agree. When there's a purpose behind it and you're passionate about it and you feel like that information needs to get out to the world, it just
Mhm.
creates a different kind of feeling inside.
It does. It does. It becomes less about, what you about you and more about what's coming through you, so it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. So when you do your mediumship, do you get like symbols sometimes? Like I know like a lot of like I think I've heard like John Edward and stuff say like they'll get like a rose or something and that means a particular thing. Do you have some of those things?
I do, and I do, and it's there's some similar symbology that John Edward uses, that just because I was really, fully in study mode when I was watching a lot of him on YouTube and think, or I don't even think it was YouTube back then, but when I was able to watch watch him do his work. I think he actually was in on TV at that point. And watching him work, I was in active development. So some of those impressions that he would speak about with, flowers and things meaning different things, it just naturally became a part of my own symbology. And of course, over time, I've developed my own symbology as well. But yeah, so it's hard. It's kind of hard not to do that when I consider him sort of my first teacher in a way, even though I didn't meet him until much later. Um, but yeah, but all of my teachers have had an influence on me as far as what my symbology is, just because of the way that they bring messages through. So.
And do they like come in on a certain side? Like you'll know, like if it's a mother or father basic from the side that they come in and talk to you on?
That used to be that way and it changed. Now and I know that's true for a lot of mediums, depending on what side they come on, it kind of says what side of the family. But I find most of the time spirit will come in from my left. And that's when I'm working one to one with somebody or a very small group. But if I'm working with like 100 people or more, they tend to come in from behind me. And they just kind of, it's like they're right over my shoulder. And it doesn't seem to matter which shoulder they come in on. I just know if they're maternal or paternal. It's just a clear cognizance, basically.
Mom?
It's this very interesting conversation that you're talking about there. And I know that with me, when I started doing it way back when, all I was doing tea leaves with the kids and stuff like that, is playing around with it. I had already seen some spirits, and I didn't those little guys from around me. But at the same time, when I started doing it with the kids, it was even brought it up more so because it was helping them to really reach into their imagination.
Yeah.
When they would look into the teacup and they would have to tell me, because they were always nervous to tell me, right? Because
Yeah.
like, look in the teacup, see what you see, and tell me what it is. And it was really neat because they all were so into it, and Kimmy was especially into it. Like, I can see that or whatever, right? So then, we got into dream books and things like that. Just more bringing stuff out, right? And I remember telling the kids, like, if you read this, you'd be amazed. you know and it's
So much.
it's just another way of learning your psychic ability, and bringing and watching it develop in some people that have more of an open mind, I guess, to let the experience come through, and with them all being quite young, and even when they started getting into their teens and that, I was doing tarot on that by then. But the kids, I still read a lot of Ted Andrews and things like that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so the kids got into that because it was about animals a lot, right? And birds and stuff. And so it came easily to them because it was something that was very gentle for the most part. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Oh, yeah.
it's interesting. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, no, I was just gonna say that it's wonderful to let kids have that experience so early, so that they can be open to that and recognize that the animal world does speak to us, that nature speaks to us, and spirit speaks to us through nature as well. And I love that you did the tea leaves. I wish I had learned how to do tea leaves. I haven't done that yet. But yeah, kids, they can tap into that creative side, and the more that they do that, the more likely that they will be able to embrace their intuition as an adult as well. So, I mean, I know everybody who's an artist, a lot of them are mediums and psychics, because that's where, in our mind, the creative mind is where spirit and intuition often arises. So,
Yeah, it just flows through you. I know I've had a couple of experiences like so I'd be interested to learn like how to hone mediumship skills if you could even elaborate on that. But I know I had an experience. We were out camping and I got up in the morning. I said to my husband, I have something to tell your sister, but right. So, anyways, I went over to her and I'm like, when you were little, did you have this dress? And I explained it to her like it was like white and had a little, or it was red and had a little bit of white like lace on it. And she said, yeah. I'm like, okay, because your mom came when I was doing my meditation this morning. And I don't really know the message except for I think she just something about that dress that she wanted you to recognize. So it was like, I was happy and she was happy that I could give that message, but I was somewhat frustrated because I couldn't tap in more. So I'm just wondering if you can touch on that a little bit.
it's just practice. Yeah, lots of practice. And it's also, and this is one thing I've kind of been trying to drive this point home with my students recently is letting go of being perfect in your development. Because a lot of times that really stops us from even trying to take that chance of saying to someone, I'm seeing this, you understand this, because we may not trust what we're perceiving. But letting go of that perfection, because that's the one thing that's going to keep anybody's growth down. I mean, I've had a heck of a week for some reason, and there's been a lot of, I don't know, the energy's been really strange this week. So my readings have kind of suffered for it. And there's been, 5 years ago, if I had a week like I've had 5 years ago, I probably would have quit. That's how bad it is. But I have to remember, I have to remind myself that it's not always a perfect connection because there's so many different variables that come into play. The energy of the world, the energy, our own energy levels, our own connection, the connection of your sitter, all these, and also the objective of the communicator from the other side. They have their own reasons for connecting, and all those things may not all match up at once. So that's one thing I always say is let go of perfectionism. And if it's something you really, really get hung up on, to work on that, to work on your own personal development associated with that so that you can be fully present for spirit and to take those chances that you need to take in order to deliver the information that needs to come through. So that's one thing I would say. But all the other things as far as determining what they're trying to say, what spirit is trying to say, learning about mind mapping, it was really important. I found things really just started to shift when I started understanding mind mapping, which is essentially you see one thing, then you see another thing, and then you say, that doesn't make sense. And you just allow spirit or you ask spirit to bring you something else. And all of a sudden, a picture starts to come through all this information. It's like psychic charades, essentially. Um, so just being open to that and knowing that um, a lot of times, a lot of my students, they'll say, I want to figure it all out before I open my mouth. I want to figure out the whole message before I open my mouth. And I said, that
Good
it
luck.
doesn't work that way. It's like that's the perfectionist side. So that's what I would say. I would offer for anybody who wants to go on this path.
Yeah, I think it's, I
Yes,
think,
good luck because they just do what they want to do, spirit. Especially when you're doing a reading, it's like they just come through. I mean, I know that sometimes I do a reading and the spirit will tell me something and I'll say, right in front of the people, are you kidding? No, I'm not doing that. Like,
I've done that too. Yes. Yeah. Isn't that funny? Yeah. They have their,
because
yeah.
you have to go with your own gut on it too, even though spirit's saying, yeah, it's okay. But you're going, yeah,
Yeah. I've had to
let's
say,
sit back on that part.
right. I've had experience like that too. And I'm like, and I'll say exactly the same thing. I'm like, I'm not saying that. And I say, okay, I gotta say this, but I have to say it my own way because I don't want to say it the way they're saying it. But you'll understand when I say it. And a lot of times it ends up being something really funny, and they'll say, I understand why you edited that. I'm like, absolutely. Because because a lot, spirit when spirit comes through, if they were if they use some salty language, a lot of times they want to say, I'm hearing it, but I'm not saying it. Occasionally
Say
might
it.
slip out. Yeah, occasionally might slip out. Like I have to apologize. Um, yeah, but there's times I'm like, you understand, you might say this with a little bit stronger language, though. Oh yeah, that's my dad, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's fun. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my lifetime is to do mediumship work. But it's one of the things that really it really allowed me to feel truly connected to the world. And I'm so grateful for that and that experience and to be connected to spirit and to know that it actually exists. I kind of always knew it was there, but I didn't have a way to define it or to understand it fully until I started to have that experience and really actually able to define it, after all the experiences I had as a child. I just thought they were the people. I didn't know what they were. I'm like, those the people in my room. Yeah, but I didn't really understand the full concept of it until I was a young adult. So
Yeah, it's
I find
interesting
my
how it
spirit.
kind of takes full.
So
It's just interesting how it takes hold, right? As you see different things, there's stories about me when I was young, which I apparently saw and don't remember, but I remember like my first probably real thing is when my great grandfather passed away. He came to my room and it scared me, right? Like, because I was like, what, 10? Like, oh my goodness. I said to mom, Grandpa was in my room and he scared me. And mom's like, just tell him to go away then. If you're like, right, you're not ready for this yet. So he didn't come back. So I think he knew I was scared. But yeah, it was early when I started too, right? And I was lucky because I did, and probably like your children, lucky to have a mother that could explain those different things to me.
yeah, what a
I
gift
find,
to.
yeah, I find that spirit challenges us too, because my spirit guides have a real personality, and they can be little brats sometimes and funny as hell the next, right? And so it's I think I take that as a challenge. That spirit's trying to say to me, okay, we're going to another level here. Are you with me? Are you staying down there? Sort of thing. Sometimes you have to sit back and think, what the hell was that? At least with my spirit guides. I don't know about yours. So yours like that too.
Oh yeah, they can yeah, they have a sense of humor and I think they realize that it's helpful to have a sense of humor because that's what keeps us going forward. I think if they made it all scary and very, heavy and very I just don't think anybody would be interested in, or maybe they would, but I don't understand why they would pursue that connection with their spirit guides if it ended up being a chore rather than, a joyful experience at times. I mean, obviously spiritual development is not easy. We all have multiple dark nights of the soul in the process of it. But to have some laughter from the other side or from our guidance team, that helps a lot. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
and you've put up boundaries to them, like not in the shower, not when I'm, like, because I've heard some mediums talk about like, don't wake me up out of my sleep, like don't come, or do you just tap in? Like, do you have that connection with them that you just tap in when you're in that space, like once you've done your centering and grounding and stuff?
Mhm. Yeah, when I was first developing, I had to set a boundary. Say, I need my sleep. Leave me alone, because you kind of feel them in the room, kind of starting to come closer. And it's because my attention was so strong on the spirit world, and where attention goes, energy flows. So, and I often tell my students, I'm like, they're not following you around all the time. It's just because you were thinking about that connection you made in circle the other day, and they're coming back again. So turn your attention to other things. There's plenty of other things in life to focus on besides the spirit world. I know it's a very big part of my life, but when I'm, washing the dishes or going to the grocery store or playing with my granddaughter and doing those things, I don't need spirit interrupting that process. And I just turn my attention away from spirit. And so I don't have that much of an issue anymore. I just sort of, the boundary is kind of accepted. So
And that's a good thing because I think, yeah, like I think until you learn that though, right? Like, and once you start opening up that door, they're like, "Oh, good. You want to open this door? Here I am."
Yeah, they're willing to connect. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you sleep? Let's sleep. No.
Yeah.
So what is, if you can share, what is one of the funniest experiences that you've had with spirit?
Um, this one's a little naughty, but I'm going to share it anyways. And it was a while ago, so I have to remember exactly how it played out. There was something about someone, I was reading for a woman, and I think, yeah, I think it was her mother-in-law that was coming in. I'm pretty sure it was her mother-in-law. And I guess they had a challenging, connection, the two of them. And then after that sort of unusual connection with the mother-in-law, this little dog came in, and I described this dog, and I said, I know this is going to sound really weird, but this dog is coming in from the other side, and the dog is lifting his leg on your mother's gravestone. I'm like, I'm so sorry to say that. It sounds so disrespectful. And she started laughing. She goes, "Oh my God, that dog hated her, and she hated that dog." So I'm like, so no wonder she's like lifting the dog was lifting his leg on the gravestone. It was just really funny. It was so irreverent but hysterical at the same time. But it was, spirit can be really funny, and kind of it's really, really funny. But we laughed so hard. And it was a hard connection, a hard reading because there was a lot of loss, but it was a good time to laugh at the same time.
Yeah, I think that helps things, right? Like when you can laugh or bring in those happy memories or something when
Mhm.
you're going through that much loss and grief.
Absolutely. I think spirit understands like what your sense of humor is, so they're going to bring that through to make you laugh, even if it's a little irreverent. But yeah, so yeah, because that's the vibration of spirit, I believe, is that higher vibration of laughter and joy. And I think that's a lot of times people need to remember that because so many people feel like when they're not feeling sad, when they're not missing their people, or in those moments when they're actually enjoying themselves, all of a sudden they feel like I should not be happy. Why am I happy? I should not be happy. I'm missing this person. This person's on the other side. But a lot of people don't recognize is that when they're in that joyful place, they're actually closer to them because that vibration's higher, and that their loved ones are able to pull in closer to them when they're enjoying life, when they're in a joyful space. And not that they can't be around when you're sad, but they will be obviously amplifying their love and energy when you're happy.
Yeah. Do you get some of the message, and I've heard this from other people, and I just want to spread this to people is I know that a lot of the times our loved ones have similar messages to people that they've learned now that they've crossed over. Can you talk a little bit about some of those messages that seem to repeat themselves?
Oh, it's a lot of them is, I'm definitely with you. I'm always with you. It's very similar messaging. They want everybody to know that we're meant to still be here and live a full life and to not be looking back constantly at what they're missing and to know that, we can miss them, but they can't miss us because they're very much still a part of our world.
Mhm.
um, I often will say, um, heaven is not this far off place. It's all around us. It's like we're the fish in the ocean. The ocean is spirit, and there's just fish around us that people in spirit swimming around. We just can't see them, but we can sense the current of them. We can sense the movement around us, and so I always like to say it's like people remember they're not that far away. They're right here with us, and also the other thing too is, and this is a hard thing to really embrace sometimes, especially when you're missing the physical loss of somebody, that we can still have a relationship with people when they're not in the physical body. We can still talk to them. We just learn a different language of how they communicate with us through signs and synchronicities and um, little hellos from heaven, that little winks that come across our day as we go about our day. But they still can be very much a part of our day and a part of our life experience, and still be part of the family and still be present for all the good times and the bad times. And but a lot of people just assume it's just completely gone. It's ended, and it's not. But even if they're not obvious, to continue to talk to them, because they do hear us, and they are very aware of us. We just not like we may not be as aware of them yet, but just to be open to that. So
Yeah. Mom, I know you have.
I was interesting. I know I've had them come to me in the shower. When Kimmy said that, they came to me in the shower. I was like, what the hell was that? Because it was,
yeah.
you get with my maturity in life and that I've been doing it for so long that I felt that I had it all under control, sort of thing, like whatever, sort of thing. And then when it came to me in the shower, all of a sudden, after all these years of doing this, it was like, holy shit, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, water's a conductor, right? So yeah, it's gonna
Yeah,
definitely it's about the shower that really does open up to the spirit side and
thank you.
intuition. Hmm.
Great. It's like,
Absolutely.
oh, you can't come in here.
Yeah.
I put up my
Later, you
shields
guys.
just like I'm just like removing negative stuff when I'm in the shower. Stay out.
Exactly. It's a great grounding time, just being in the shower. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
really
it really is. So, can you tell everybody where they can find you?
just through my website, laurawooster.com, LAURAWOOSTER.com. And I do some online classes. I'll be doing more coming in next year, 2026. But yeah, that's how they can connect with me.
Perfect. And you've got your mediumship on there and your intuitive readings and your
Mhm.
different classes and things like that.
Yeah, and the podcast. I have a podcast called The Intuitive Life. Been on hiatus, but it's coming back.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, it's all
Yeah,
there
I
now.
listened to a couple of episodes of yours, so it's very nice. You have some very interesting guests as well. And I was listening to one today about with Karen K with the fairies. I was like,
Oh
oh.
yeah, that's lovely. Yeah. Yeah. It's so
So
nice to listen to.
what inspired you to start your podcast?
Um, it's well, I started doing a podcast maybe 12 years ago, 13 years ago, something like that. I started one just sort of like a blog talk or something. And it was an opportunity just to be able to interview the people that I wanted to learn from. So I could learn more and I could ask the questions I wanted to ask. It was kind of selfish actually. So luckily I was, and I asked a lot of people I really was reading their books and everything, and they said yes. So that's how I started, was over a decade ago. And again, it was just out of the, curiosity and wanting to ask the questions I wanted to ask. But then a few years ago, someone invited me to be a part of mindbodyspirit.fm, and I absolutely said yes. And it's been a wonderful experience. I really enjoy talking to people and hearing their stories and how, spirituality has affected their lives and their process of discovering that part of their life as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's one thing we love as well is getting to talk to people such as yourself and just like hearing all these interesting because even though there's similarities between different things, there's still some different things that you can learn. And I love that, like, and mom loves that too, is learning from people. And, usually we get off the podcast and then we're like,
That's
what did
wonderful.
we learn, right? So
That's so nice that two of you are doing this together. That's beautiful. That's
yeah.
what a great thing to do.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you. Yes, we really love it.
Great, thank you.
So
Got
if
some good
you,
giggles.
yeah, yeah, we do. We love people that laugh. Like this has been so much fun. So what
Yes.
if you had a final
Mm.
word to leave with the followers, what would it be?
Oh, where do I begin with that? There's so much I want to say. Where do I start? I will just and I know this it's easier said than done sometimes. However, to always go back to what you know is true, to always know what is can never change, what's always in your control and cannot be affected by anybody else's decisions or opinions. always go back to your soul, and always try to find a time, a little bit of time every single day to connect back to that, so that when things are chaotic and the seas are a little bit rough, you can always come back to shore, into your own soul and your own spirit. And that will never ever be, that'll never be changed ever.
Nice
Wonderful.
one.
Yeah, that's a
I like
beautiful
that.
message. I do
I
too.
like that.
I do too, because I think that is a really good reminder for people, especially when the world is so chaotic and crazy, to know that
Yeah.
we can find that safe haven within ourselves, right? And within our connection. So
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're
So
very
thank you
welcome.
so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. And we'd love to have you back on some other time as you go on your journey and talk more maybe about your path and how, how it, where it's leading you. So thank you
That
so
sounds
much.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
Thank you
having me,
very much.
Barb. Take care.
And everybody else, we will see you on the next one.
You bet you will.